Olá, hoje nós vamos para a penúltima parte, a parte 4 do Shoud 8 de Merlin, I am. Eu sou Merlin, o mago. Então, de hoje vamos tratar do assunto, quer dizer, Adamos vai tratar do assunto felicidade. Ele vai fazer a teatralização, ele é o mestre e a Linda representa os estudantes e ela vai fazer perguntas sobre o que é felicidade, como é que funciona e ele vai nos explicar o que é a felicidade para o humano neste momento de transição em que a gente está partindo para a redenção. Vamos assistir.
So I miss my Shambra. I miss you. I miss the audiences at the Shoud. We've even proposed to them. They put in these cardboard cutouts of you at the Shouds just so it feels like the room is more full. I miss the interactions that I have with you. Yeah, I miss the cajoling. I miss the provoking. I miss the humor. I miss the humor so much. It's hard to do humor when you're not there because the humor is generally at your expense. So how do I do humor? At my expense? I don't think so. Not so much. I enjoy the energy. And you know, when there's 50, 60 of you sitting at the studio for a Shoud, it's like almost a magnet that attracts all the others of you who are at home sitting at your computers. It's like you become the anchor for them, and then they gather when we do a Shoud. And how long's it been now? A year or slightly more now that there's been no audiences. The workshops now lately, yes. And I had so much built up passion and longing for Shambra. I think I overdid it with some of the past few groups. I think I may have been a little intense with them.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, but it's just this deep longing to be back with Shambra. So here we are once again, without an audience. What to do? So
Go ahead, pick on me.
So I don't want to overdo it, Linda. I don't want to, I don't want to cause you any permanent damage. So no, I don't want to overdo it. So what I would like to do is I've created a theatrical device. Mm-hmm. By the way, every one of you has a lot of theatrical devices that you can use at any point. You just have to pull them out of your back pocket and use them once in a while. Theatrical devices are great. And they actually really help with energy flow dynamics because you get out of your head. Now you're just acting. So, yes, so I've got a little theatrical device. I'm going to tell a story.
Okay.
And it'll be a master story.
Sure.
And which you're familiar with. The master and, in this case, the master and the questioning students. And would you play the role of all the students who are gathered around listening to the master?
Oh, I would love to. I have a good history of being a very good student.
Good. So okay. you're gonna represent all of them.
Sure.
I'm gonna play the role of the master,
Shocking.
Which is very easy for me to do.
Okay.
I don't have to work at it.
Okay.
I'm gonna play the role of the master, and we'll tell this story.
Okay.
With the questions which you have. Okay. From the students, as a way to kind of bring back an audience.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So let's take a good deep breath together before we get started.
Okay.
A master story. And again, I'm playing the role of the master. Linda is playing the role of multiple students.
Okay.
The master pulled up a chair under the big oak tree on this beautiful summer afternoon. About 20 students were gathered there. It was not a formal class. It was just a casual gathering that they did once in a while. The master and some of the students really look forward to it because this was out of the classroom. it was a little bit easier going, a little bit maybe not as intense. Some of the students jokingly called it the Zen Unzen gathering because oftentimes they got into the big Zen-like questions and then realized then it was time to unzen. So the master sat down in his chair, took a drink of his coffee, in which case this is actually not coffee, just so you know. I'm a little disappointed.
Not my fault.
I'm still disappointed. The master took a drink of his coffee.
Should we get you coffee? We could do that, you know.
No, I'm fine. Don't
You
worry.
don't sound fine.
Worry about me. No, please. So the master sat down, took a sip of his coffee, which one of the students had so kindly gotten for him and brought it there, even though he didn't ask, because the students were always anticipating the master's desires. If that might be a little hint, but maybe not.
I'm working on it.
The master took a deep breath with the students and said, Today we're going to talk about one of the oldest debates, the philosophical debates ever, that has been almost beaten to death. But today we're going to talk about it in relationship to what you're going through in your journey. Today, we're going to talk about happiness.
Oh.
Happiness. I ask you now, said the master, I ask you to feel into happiness, your own level of happiness. What is happiness? Is it something that can be achieved? Is it something to be desired? Is it simply a philosophical, meaningless debate? But feel into happiness for a moment. Each and every one of you here today. Are you happy? Is it even important to be happy? So after a few minutes, one of the students realized the master's coffee cup was empty and then brought forth the new cup of coffee. On cue, of course. Brought forth the new cup of coffee. There we go.
Oh, magic. Who knew?
Thank you.
Who knew?
Thank you for anticipating my needs. Brought about a new cup of coffee. Good. And I'm going to ask you, Linda, to please, yeah. And the master then said, at this point now, I'd love to take any questions that you have about happiness.
Yeah. Master, should we strive for happiness? Whoa, one more creamer, dear.
Should we strive for happiness, the master said, taking a sip of his cup and of his coffee and recounting what Nietzsche once said, that humans should not strive for happiness. No human actually does strive for happiness other than the English who do all the time. I'm not really sure what Nietzsche meant by that, but basically, no, humans actually don't strive for happiness. They think about happiness. They would like happiness, but they get so busy in their everyday lives that they simply don't put it as a priority. They get so busy with things like making money, taking care of their children, trying to resolve problems at work, those things that, no, actually, humans really don't strive for happiness, said the master. Looking now for the next question.
Master, will fame and fortune bring happiness?
Fame and fortune. Fame and fortune occur in the pursuit of happiness. One tries to acquire more money, for instance, thinking that it will bring happiness. One feels that fame, even acknowledgement, is the path to happiness. But ultimately, happiness is unto itself and doesn't require fame or fortune. You see, these are only pursuits to happiness, but do not necessarily result in happiness itself. No, it's not about having to interject these other things happiness stands on its own. Happiness truly is, as they say so often, not a goal, not a destination. And when it's put in that term, then it's almost elusive, but happiness is in every moment, and that's why I tell all of you, my students, that it's about every day that you're here at the school. There are tough days, and there are easy days, but every day can have itself woven with happiness, even in the most difficult of times. And that's one of the reasons that you're here, to understand that it's not about judging where you are or how you are, but it's going through the experience and then feeling the inherent happiness in that. Master paused for a moment so everybody could reflect on his great, great words of wisdom. He noticed, though, out of the corner of his eye, several of the students were sound asleep. Such as it is being a master. He then took the next question.
Master, can I achieve happiness through reasoning?
If the master's eyes had been open, you would have seen his eyeballs rolling with this question. Can I achieve happiness through reasoning? Master took a deep breath as to avoid the annoying sound that might have otherwise been in his voice and said, temporarily, yes. Temporarily, you can use thoughts and even reasoning to create the illusion of happiness. You could tell yourself that you have money in the bank. You could tell yourself that your children love you. You could tell yourself that you're more successful than a lot of other people. You could tell yourself that you're ahead of your life goals that you had laid out for yourself, and that brings a certain amount of what I would call false happiness, sugar happiness. But no, ultimately, the real happiness that comes in your life is not from these other things, but it comes from the soul. From the soul, and the real happiness is knowing that you're in your passion, you're following your passion, knowing that you're finally coming to allow and accept yourself. Those are the important things. The master closed his eyes once again, waiting for the next question from the audience.
Master, I came from an unhappy family. Is that my destiny?
This was a big one for so many of the students, coming from an unhappy family. There's an old saying, said the master, that goes, happy parents, happy children. Unhappy parents, very unhappy family. About 50% of happiness is literally in your genes the moment you're born. Well, it's a carry through from the ancestral genetics. And it makes up to such a huge degree of your happiness capability, or at least your happiness awareness in that lifetime. If your parents are unhappy, the chances are you're going to be also. You're picking up on their energies. You're now in that unhappy cycle in this life. So generally, yes, about 50% of your genes carry the happiness with them. About 10% simply comes from, you would say, good fortune, things lining up, or what I would say to be your energy serving you, if you allow it. And yet about another 40% simply comes from mass consciousness, from your environment, from your reality and your perception of reality. So in answer to your question, is this your destiny if you had unhappy parents? And the chances for most people is yes. But once you stop for a moment and you realize you're no longer dependent on them, you may love them dearly, or you may loathe them, it doesn't matter. But you're no longer dependent on them, and happiness is not found in your genes or in your DNA. That happiness doesn't have to come as a result of karma, or unhappiness rather as a result of karma. You're free in every way in your life. You're free to be happy. It's an inherent right. It is the way of the soul, what you would call happiness, or in the case of the soul, being content. The human is happy, the soul is content, and it is your right. And once you take back that right, no longer letting society or even luck or your family dictate your level of happiness, then you'll realize that it was always there, but it was being suffocated and colored dark by your own family. And that's why it's so important to realize that you are a sovereign being, not beholden to a family, to ancestors, or to lineage. While you may love them dearly as soul beings in their own right, it's no longer appropriate to be passing down karma and unhappiness and things like disease and alcoholism and depression and all these things through the family lines. So now, said the master to the students, it's totally up to you. Do you accept your own happiness, or you continue to rely on the family quotient? He took a deep breath and remembered then his own family, the difficulties and the challenges, the disruption and the chaos when he was growing up, realizing for so long before he became a master, that he was following in the steps of an unhappy family. And it was only when he was in his darkest moments of despair and said no more, that he left that and he went out to pursue his own self and ultimately his own happiness. He took a deep breath and paused, waiting for the next question.
Master, are you saying that happiness is a choice?
Happiness is a perspective. Happiness is a choice, absolutely, but it can't be forced through a lot of reasoning. It can't be forced through trying to think your way into it. What you do is to realize that in happiness is the gift of the soul to the human, and it's your right. It's been your right all along. And now it's the question, will you allow it? And the better question is, why won't you allow it? And generally the reason for that is because you're still depending on external things, people and events, and you're still relying on your old human goals and aspirations, the old ones, to determine your level of happiness. And therefore, it's going to be elusive. It's going to be almost impossible. Once you realize that happiness is the gift of the soul to the human, the soul knew the human was going to be going through challenging experiences. And the soul said, and here is this gift of this thing we call happiness. Not pleasure. That's a different thing. Pleasure is a man-made feeling and emotion. Happiness is the gift of the soul, and it's there for each and every one of you when you're ready and worthy to receive it.
E foi assim que terminamos hoje mais essa etapa. Deixe seu like, faça sua inscrição, ajude o canal a ter mais progresso. E amanhã vamos com a nossa última parte e depois, durante a semana, vamos fazer comentários sobre alguns trechos dessas partes. Até amanhã.